right. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. Sorry that we didn't get an episode out to you guys last week. That was just a glitch of some sort. We did have a guest lined up, but we really didn't expect for the guest to want to participate with us for a number of other reasons. It really was kind of a unique situation, to say the least. And this week we do have a guest scheduled booked. I'm not quite sure why we're having a struggle getting Nick to join us, but we do have a guest for you guys today. Great colleague, gentleman by the name of Nick Bukowski, and hopefully Nick will be on with us soon. I'm going to ping him again. But in the interim, and hopefully he'll get with us shortly, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background on how all of this really started. And just for those of you that haven't seen us doing this for, oh my gosh, countless years now, this is our 8th year of doing the podcast, and we've probably been doing work with mortgage originators and real estate agents. Actually, that was where it started for years. Literally, I couldn't even begin to give you the total number, but I don't know, let's call it 20-ish to be safe. But when I was new to mortgages in the Colorado market, there was this general belief that in order to be a good loan originator, you had to have real estate agents in your pocket. And I do think it's important to understand that a big part of what goes on in referral partner relationships is the relationship. I think that's really kind of an important piece of the puzzle. But that's kind of how loan originators have been taught, would be an incorrect term, led to believe over decades of doing this. And I don't think that that's true for any of you, whether you're in mortgages or real estate or any other sales related industry that has a direct to consumer gig. I think it's important to understand that you need to be able to generate your own business. You really can't, how do I describe this? You really can't be reliant on somebody else doing their lead gen work impacting your business. You've got to be able to do this in a manner that's really self-sufficient. If somebody decides to retire or a team changes companies or whatever the case may be, it could have a significant impact on your business. And if it's supplementary or complementary to you doing your own lead gen work, that's a big deal. So I thought I would at least check out what the rumors were about this and see if we couldn't, get somebody to give us some good content about what these classes might pertain to, might look like. So I went and I looked at a couple of classes. The first one I went to was a mortgage originator teaching real estate agents how to read an appraisal. I was like, well, that's not really their job. That's your job. So that didn't make any sense to me, but I thought it might be a fluke. So I went to check out another one, and it was another mortgage originator teaching real estate agents how to how to write VA loans, different types of VA loans. I was like, well, that's still not their job. That's your job. That's my job. What would real estate agents really want to know? And we started talking about lead generation and contact management and calendar management. This is before the inception of social media and video work and those kinds of things being distributed in that manner. And it led to a really great success of real estate agents wanting the content, learning how to get more buyers, more sellers, more contracts, more closings. And then I started getting a lot of blowback from the mortgage originator community asking me why I wasn't teaching that content to mortgage originators, which I didn't have an answer for. So we started doing that. And then the rest was really history as far as our coaching and speaking and writing books on the subject and so on and so forth. So there's kind of the backstory. And while I've been telling you guys that, we have been joined by Nick Bukowski. Hello, Nick. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, good morning, Adam. Don't know what was going on with the link here. I could see you, but I don't know what was going on my end. So
Problem
thanks
solved.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we were ecstatic to have you, even if it's a bit tardy, no big deal. And IT issues prevail. They just always will. That's the nature of the beast. So, Nick, while you were dealing with those issues, I was kind of giving our audience a little bit of background on how Just the Tips came to be and how we started by really teaching real estate agents contact management, calendar management. The idea was zero cost marketing for repeat and referral business, and really how to find more buyers, more sellers, how to get more contracts, more closings, how to do good work in client retention arenas, those kinds of things. This has been going on so long. It was before the inception of anything social media or video distribution or things like StreamYard and podcasts and so on and so forth. And that we've come a really long way, and that we've been very, very fortunate all this time to have picked up a lot of great clients and colleagues over the years, you included. I was singing your praises. I was not giving anybody an idea of your IT skills, just your
don't speak to that.
Okay, but now that we do have you live and in person, everyone, welcome to the show, Nick Bukowski. And Nick, give us a little background about Nick. How did you get started in this? What in the world made you think it was going to be a good idea? Where did you come from? What was that background? How long have you been doing it? Tell us about Nick.
Sure. So I started as a firefighter back in high school. In 2005, I got on the fire department. So had a good career, 17 and a half years. I actually got out of the fire service 2 years ago, right before my wife and I had our first little girl. So doing both careers simultaneously, the fire department plus, selling real estate. One thing had to give. And it was a good career. Definitely miss certain aspects of it. But with that said, kind of rewinding a little bit. So how I got into real estate, it was 2010. And I had gotten on the fire department. It was, still in the wake of the 2008 housing collapse. And obviously I think you were in the business back then as well, right?
I was. Oh, yes. Yep.
So I actually had a house. I bought my first house as I was a firefighter. I was living in Johnstown, Colorado, northern Colorado. And one of the volunteers on the fire department, he had lost his job and said, "Hey, I have 2 little kids and a wife, and we foreclosed on our house and we need somewhere to go." So me being, 21, 22 years old, I was like, "Hey, you could just rent my house from me and I'll move back in with my parents for a year." And so that was my first introduction to real estate, and just kind of fell into it. And with that, I thought it was awesome, making $200 a month or whatever it was, right, in cash flow. I thought that was amazing, being 21, making $200 a month on the side for, basically keeping up with the property. So he lived in it for a year. I moved back in, and then just by happenstance got introduced to a real estate agent and investor in Fort Collins at the same time. And he was like, "Hey, you were talking about all the real estate he owned." And I thought that was pretty interesting, and how to create passive income for yourself and create financial stability for your family. And I told him, I was like, "I actually just rented my house out." And he's like, "You could do this as a business. Have you ever thought of that?" And that was kind of the introduction. And from that point, I started buying.
Nick? And we lost Nick. Okay, so there are greater technical issues than what we had originally thought. That's really too bad. Hopefully he'll jump back in here. And I think it's important that Nick is, while still in Colorado, and it's not all that often that we get to have agents in Colorado joining us, although we really do love it. But Nick, you're actually up in Fort Collins, Colorado, way northern, right?
Correct. Yep. We serve basically Loveland, Fort Collins, Greeley area mainly.
And if I'm not mistaken, you are also a former Colorado State student.
Correct.
All right, go Rams.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, so keep going before you dropped us there. Before we dropped you.
Again, technology not my forte. Good thing I have a team to help me with that.
Hear, hear.
So I think where we left off, right, met a guy who was a local investor up in Fort Collins. And he helped me. I started buying rental properties near Colorado State University, which is where all my family went. So like you said, go Rams. With that, kind of fast forward a little bit, fell in love with it, realized you could really make a business model. And in the fire service too, it's a very demanding career physically, mentally. And, the days of people spending 30 and 40 years in the fire service has kind of transitioned to more of like an 8 to 12-year plan, just because of the dynamics of the job. And so to see an opportunity to really create a plan B for myself, for my family, it was very appealing. So we started building that out, and became a passion of mine, and fell in love with it. And after 5 years of doing the rental properties in 2015, I'm like, I'm obsessively looking at investment properties every day. Why don't I just get my real estate license? So took the test, got my real estate license, and then really expanded from just investing and looking for myself in 2015 to serving other clients. And so 2015 through 2022, I worked for a brokerage firm out of Longmont. And in 2022, when I left the fire service, that's when I started the Station Real Estate Company, which is my brokerage. We have 16 of us at my office now, and kind of carrying the tradition and the values of the fire service. At least what I valued was relationships and service. And, that we always used to say in the fire department, you're the only job in town, right? Like, you're the only number that people can call if they have a house fire, they have a medical emergency. You're their only option, right? So you have to be good.
Wow, that's really something. I don't think I've ever thought about it that way. But yeah, I can't go shopping around.
Right. Yeah, unless you load up in the car and drive to a different city or something and have your heart attack there or whatever.
Okay.
But, yeah, right. So yeah, it kind of carrying that forward. Like we operate on those two values, relationships and service. We saw for a while that when we weren't licensed, agents worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and that was it. And their phone was off. Right. And at the fire department, the values instilled in us where we worked 48-hour shifts, and we could, respond to 8 calls after midnight. Right. You just roll out of bed and you do your job, because that's what your professional career is. Right. So carrying that towards the real estate career, same thing. My phone rings at 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve. I'm writing up a contract for my clients. And that's the way we operate.
That's a good thing. I do remember years and years ago, one of my very first coaches. So this is, I don't know, probably 25 years ago. And he has actually since passed. That's how old we are. He and I, not you.
Oh no, I'm in that group too.
He had once said to me, there's no such thing as a mortgage emergency. Nobody's going to die.
Right.
And at least that's a palatable change from fighting fires to fighting the real estate fight, is that at least nobody's going to die.
Right.
That's huge, and I'm sure an enormous relief. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And it doesn't matter if you've had an hour of sleep or you're in the middle of a meal or whatever the case may be. If somebody calls you, you have work to do.
Right. Exactly.
That's actually really a cool philosophy. And I don't know that we've had anybody on the show in all these years, although I could be wrong with what are hundreds of guests at this point, that were in an arena of first responder and are now doing real estate. We've certainly had people come from interesting backgrounds. We've got a guest that's been on the show a number of times in California that used to be a librarian. He's kind of an interesting fellow, no question. And he's actually booked to be on the show later this year again for either a sixth or probably a fifth or sixth time. But yeah, I don't think that we've ever had somebody that was a first responder, although there are some of you out there, and I've certainly met a handful, but you might be the first that's ever been on the show that made that transition. And at this point, completely, you're obviously, we're still coming across people that fight fires and have a side gig of real estate. They're probably in that 70 whatever percent. The numbers have been fluctuating as I've seen them this month, of agents that did not close a single deal last year. So I know. Yeah. And that's all you can do is shake your head at that. Okay. So let's get into the Wayback Machine. When you first started doing this as a licensed agent representing other people and not just your own investment acquisitions, Where were these people coming from? Who were these people? Who were your leads?
Actually, I ran into my very first client last weekend at we still are heavily involved with the fire service. We host events and such. We went to the firefighter ball, Northern Colorado firefighter ball. There's, I don't know, 400 or 500 people at this event, and actually ran into one of my buddies who him and I were the very first paid firefighters in Johnstown, Colorado.
Wow.
He's now a battalion chief at the fire department. But I ran into him. He was my very first client, and it's almost, you're always getting better, whatever career field you're in, you're always getting better. And you look back at what you used to do a year ago or what you used to do 10 years ago, and you're like, holy cow, why did anybody even hire me? Right. Because you're just always striving to get better. And I remember I showed up at his house to list his property, and I had a little digital camera and some lights with me, and I was taking pictures of his house. And now it's like, what the heck was I doing back then? But I think there is inherent trust, that brotherhood, and I say brotherhood, but right, men and women both in the fire service, and I have friends, very close friends in each of those categories, men and women. But when I say brotherhood, right, just the camaraderie, the trust we have with one another. So that was really the core sphere of my business, was the fire department. They trusted me, and they saw what I had done with my own real estate. And that was immediate credibility to serve them in their home sales and purchases. So kind of to recap that, it was, I would say the first couple of years, it was 75% of my clients were firefighters or first responders. And, now as we've gotten word of mouth business, referral business, which is the main, 95% of our business is referrals. I would say that number's more around 40%, but still heavily involved in the fire service. But I think there's instant credibility with careers such as the military, law enforcement, first responders. So, that is one.
These are people that counted on you to watch their back.
Yep, exactly.
Life and death situations.
Yep.
You better have a degree of trust there. No question. But I think the lesson out to everybody else, and certainly for those of you that are newer to real estate or, any industry where you're dealing direct with consumer on large ticket items, you're selling direct to consumer on these big items, is run your circle. You have got to talk to people that know you and know that you are now in whatever you're in, whether that's real estate or mortgages or otherwise. I think that's a very big deal. And I still come across people from time to time that don't want to do that. I've got one on my mind, and this is a past coaching client. He's a good guy, but even today, he would rather call on expireds and FSBOs. There was a very Keller Williams mentality there. He would rather call on expireds and FSBOs than really talk to his circle about what he does. And credit where credit's due. He has gotten better and better. He has closed more deals year over year. And it really was kind of a weird thing for me to watch because I do think it's important to talk to your people, your circle, the people that already have a degree of know, like, and trust. That obviously that degree of know, like, and trust is going to be exacerbated if it's a firefighter and we're dealing with people in the firehouse, other first responders, so on and so forth, because that obviously already existed to a significant degree for you with these other people. But 75% of those first clients you just said basically came from your circle, your previous life, your former career. And I still cannot believe how many people I come across that are reluctant to do that.
What in your successful coaching business, Adam, do you hear a lot of, I don't want to come off as salesy. I don't want to come off as talking about myself.
Of course. Yeah, we've got a coaching client right now. She's a great agent, and she just said this. She's relatively new to our program and just said this probably within the last month. And I can't remember what it was about. It was something social, like her book club or something to that effect. And I said, you're looking at it the wrong way. you have a real estate license, you've done real estate deals, you went through all this schooling to get that education to obtain your license, you have to do continuing education to remain up to speed on all of these skills that go on in real estate. You have fought through things like you did last year with the NAR settlement and the changes of how we're dealing with commissions and so on and so forth. And your mindset is wrong, because what you're actually doing is denying your friends that knowledge base. All these people that could be relying on you and your expertise for these types of moves, buying, selling, renting, getting investment, whatever it is, you're now denying them all of these skills and knowledge that you have learned and put to use. That's the mindset you've got to approach it with. But yes, Nick, you're absolutely right. So many people just have this gut reaction that, well, I don't want to seem, pushy or salesy to my friends. And I think you can do your job really well without that at all, including your job of generating leads, finding buyers and sellers, getting more contracts, getting more closings, which should be your goal. Here's news for all of you in the real estate game. You do not need to know how to, let's say, negotiate an inspection objection if you don't have any buyers or sellers. No need for you to know how to write a contract or how to deal with a radon test or any of those things if you don't have buyers and sellers. So you got to focus on primary job one. But yeah, you're absolutely right. A lot of people have that mental hurdle, that speed bump, that objection to talking about their relatively new real estate career in their circles.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. That's, we have newer agents at my office as well. And that's always the objection, is like, I don't want to come off as salesy. And it's like, if you're operating in genuine good faith and you know what you're doing, but exactly what you said, you're actually doing your friends in your circle a disservice by not offering your services to them, because they're missing out on that and they're going to go use someone else who's not as good as you. And then, that's a poor reflection of what you could have done for them and didn't. So it's actually the opposite.
Oh, and I'll bet seasoned agents, all of them, could look back and find examples of that. I was relatively new to the business. This friend of mine went and used somebody else, and looking back on it, that other agent made missteps X, Y, and Z where I would have done A, B, and C. And yeah, they actually did them a disservice by not, I don't even know how to describe it, but if you guys are in that mindset, please just change that mindset. You are not being salesy or pushy. You are helping your closest friends, family, relatives, colleagues, former coworkers, whatever it is, with this skill set and knowledge base that you now have. And it's not small. You had to go through hours and hours and hours of training just to be able to get a license. And that examination process was not easy at all. And then you have to do it over and over. You have continuing educational requirements. You have all kinds of things that you have to deal with. Every time you close a transaction, you're seeing something that you hadn't seen in a while or you've never seen before. You're adding to that skill set with every single day that goes by. Please don't deny your people that. Please. Yeah, that's really well said, Nick. That, yeah, I don't know how that mental objection gets into the heads of a lot of new agents and originators. And it's probably true also of the other people in our coaching profiles that include insurance agents and financial planners. And again, here are people with licenses and a robust amount of knowledge just to get to the point where they are brand new. And they're denying their people that information, that knowledge base, that skill set. That's a really good place to be. Okay, so what does it look like now? Where are the clients coming from? I mean, after all these years, I'm guessing it's mostly repeat and referral. What about for your team? You've got some newer agents. What are they doing to generate business, to spark interest, to, well, find buyers and sellers?
Yeah, so I would say over half of our team currently has been in the business less than 2 to 3 years. Okay. So all fairly new, and especially, the brand new agents less than a year, definitely a hard market to break into with, mortgage rates and the market conditions that we're seeing, right? Definitely hard to break into. So I hats off to the people who are new agents and still able to do deals and put deals together, right?
Keep going. Keep fighting.
it's discouraging. And if you're doing deals as a new agent right now, that's awesome. So advise them, right, to break into that, right? Like your sphere is your network and is a direct reflection of your business. And I think that that's one of the key words that we would always use in the fire service is servant's heart, right? Like if you approach your client base with a servant's heart, willing to serve them, you're not selling, you're serving them. They're going to use you, and you're going to grow. I'd say consistency as well. Going back to what our brokerage looks like right now, with half of our agents being newer, I would still say I think 12 out of the 16 of us have either military, first responder, law enforcement a background in that, which is pretty cool, right? We started the brokerage, The Station Real Estate Company, with a nod to fire station, police station, whatever, right? Military base. So most of our agents already have that inherent trust and connection, like we discussed earlier, with their sphere. The clients who don't have that, they're one of their wives works at a nail salon. There's 25 other people at the nail salon that she knows, right? Go drop off lunch.
Do not deny the fact that the salon, whatever it is an incredible resource, because that's where people talk about everything.
Right.
So, and I think that one's really important to focus on for just a moment. And let's circle back. But you talk a lot about coming from a position of service. And yeah, there's some really great old Zig Ziglar type of mentality in there. All you got to do is take good care of people. That's it. And if you're coming from that place, if that's authentically where you're coming from, then fantastic. That's really what's going to propel a career and not just a job. But help as many people as you can get what they want, and you're going to get what you want. Now, a big part of that in the sales process is problem solving. And in order to do that, we've got to get people to talk about their problems, essentially. And I promise all of you, people do that at the salon. Whatever it is. Right. All right, go on, Nick.
I think I don't know how much I have to add to that. I do want to throw it back into your court for a second on just a question, if that's okay.
Please.
So how are you coaching your clients on in this market we're seeing with interest rates that really that's out of our control, right? What are you telling your clients in the newer, whether they're mortgage brokers, real estate agents, whoever it is in the industry? What are you advising them to do in this market where they're like, well, I'm doing everything I can do. The holdup is rates and things that are out of my control.
Oh, that's an excuse, not an answer. Okay. So I do want to make it clear before we really get into this that I get the question a lot from people who think they want to get into real estate or want to get into mortgage origination or whatever the case may be. And usually that's followed immediately by, it's a really hard time to do that though, right? Well, yeah, but it always is. I remember agents strictly having to deal with REOs, short sales, foreclosures, that kind of thing. Or even what went on in, let's call it 2021, 22, where there was just no property and we were paying above asking and we were doing stupid shit like waiving appraisal and waiving inspection. And so it's always hard. It's just what kind of hard is it right now? Okay. The bottom line, however, is that there are people buying and selling homes. It's happening. You can go look. Now, granted, it's fewer than it used to be, but there's also a lower population than there used to be. If you go look at, say, NAR stats of how many realtors there were in 22 versus today, that number has declined a lot. So yeah, it's a smaller pie, but it's bigger pieces. We're also at a point now where we've got more inventory than we've had in like a decade. And don't get me wrong, it's not a healthy amount. We're not in a balanced market by any stretch, and we may never be. I don't know. Probably not in the course of my career anyway. Yeah, we'd have to change a lot of things. So the bottom line, and one of the other things I want to reference, and I talk a lot about Zeg, and I talk a lot about Jeff Gittimer, who has a lot of great sales ideas and sales books. I've actually got a copy of the little platinum book of Cha-Ching on my desk that I've been rereading this weekend. And another one of them is The Purple Cow. And I can't remember who the author is, But if you just kind of envision the mentality behind a purple cow, you're going to get it. We all drive around, and certainly in Colorado and in northern Colorado. And if you see cows on the road or on the side of the road, I guess would be a better scenario. You always say, "Oh, look, cows! There they are. There's brown cows and white cows and black cows." And if you were driving past and you saw that same herd, but there was a purple cow, you would focus on that. Oh, wow, it's not just cows. There's a purple cow. You might even stop, reset, take a picture. Look, a purple cow. And that's basically the mentality behind this book of doing things that other people won't. Some of the things that real estate agents do and have done is relatively redundant. And don't get me wrong, I don't think the job has changed all that much in the decades that I've been doing this. The core of it is still there. The need to find more buyers, more sellers, more contracts, more closings is still there. It's just, how are we going to do it? Well, start by doing the things that other people won't do. Be a purple cow. But if you were to ask me today, a brand new agent inquiring with us, inquiring about being in real estate, and this goes for all the other industries like ours, mortgages and insurance and financial planning, even some attorneys and some car people, some car salespeople. I would say there are 4 keys, and I've written on this subject as well, but be constant and consistent. Whatever it is you're using the phone, you're doing social media, you're doing video, you're doing short form video, you're writing a blog, whatever the case may be consistent and be constant. There's a very important piece to understand that you might have a conversation with somebody today about the fact that you're now in real estate. And 2 months from now, with a complete 60-day gap between any communication with them, they are going to run into a family member, a coworker, a colleague who needs to buy or sell a home. And because you let it go 60 days, they're not going to remember talking to you. That's a real problem. Be constant, be consistent. The other pieces of that, and obviously this is on the opposite side of the coin when it comes to this, but very important as these other 2 keys are concerned, are be authentic and be transparent, right? For those of you that are new to it, and certainly for those of you that are on Nick's team that are new to it, make sure your circle knows what you're doing. Nick just described this with his historic activity when he was new to real estate with the other firefighters and first responders. He made sure they knew what he was into. No question about it. For those of you that are a little more seasoned, your audience probably knows what you do. If not, then, well, you should talk to Nick about how to talk to the firefighters from yesterdecade, because that's marketing 101 kind of shit. But nowadays, people are going to be far more concerned, far more interested in who you are rather than what you do. And they already know what you do. I've got news for you. They know what you do. Like when we do video work, there's no need for you to do a Facebook video, a TikTok video, a LinkedIn video, whatever platform it is, and start by introducing yourself. That's just stupid. They already know it's you. They're on your channel. It says right there, Adam P. Smith. They know it's me. I don't have to say, "Hi, everybody, Adam Smith here." I don't have to do that. And I don't have to say that I'm a mortgage originator. I don't have to do that. They know. What they care about is who I am. What am I into? How do I think? What things do I like? How am I going to attract more people consuming more of our content? And actually, that's probably one of those mindsets that we should touch on, at least, although we do on the regular, is that I want to attract more people that are like-minded. And I want to repel people that aren't. I don't want to work with them anyway. And you don't have to do that, guys. It'll come organically. The trash takes itself out in that sense. But the number one goal for all of you, I don't care how long you've been doing this. I don't care what level of expertise you have. I don't care how many deals you closed last year. The number one goal should be getting more people to consume more of your content. Okay. Now, when we hear the term content, we obviously think about social media. We think about TikTok, for example. That's a really synonymous kind of thing when it comes to content, but that's not content. If you guys are great networkers, you love going to network events, you love having client appreciation events, whatever the case may be, then you're talking to people one-on-one. You're actually pressing flesh. And whatever is coming out of your mouth in those conversations, that's your content. Maybe you've been doing mailers for decades and they work for you. Whatever's on that postcard, that's your content. Maybe you write a blog. And that really generates a lot of leads for you. That's your content. So more people consuming more of your content should be the ultimate goal. So maybe that is social media. Maybe that's having fun conversations. Maybe that's getting more people to read your written blog, but more people consuming more of your content. You want to attract more people to your audience? Be authentic and transparent. That is what's going to do it. And the good news is the people that you would want to work with, the people that are going to have a degree of know, like, and trust, and as a result are also going to trust your process, will gravitate towards you. And the ones that don't will organically repel. So, yeah, those would be my tips, I guess, Nick. If somebody asked me straight out, I would say, yeah, be constant and consistent and be authentic and transparent, and it will come. The only other thing I would say about that is I had a colleague many years ago. We're having dinner in Las Vegas after I spoke at a conference at Mortgage Revolution. And he asked me, what was the one thing you would tell someone to do to get where you're at? And I said, work hard for 20 years. That's it. You've got to work hard. I know a lot of you are misled by HGTV and you think that this is going to be fun and you're going to see a bunch of cool houses and your schedule is going to be flexible and you're going to spend time with your kids and you're going to make a bunch of money, but that's not how it works. And that's sure as shit not how it works today. This is hard work. If you want to have success, you've got to put in the work. Do the work.
We live in a world across the board of instant gratification, right? And that's the cause of many issues, I think, in society, right? And this generation. But I think, to your point, the consistency piece of it, people see, oh, you're selling 40 homes a year or 50 homes a year or whatever it is, right? You're just lucky, or you just have this network or whatever, right? You have this network or whatever. And it's like, no, that's over a decade of hard work, planting seeds, nurturing people, taking care of people, right? And I think that instant gratification mindset, that's why so many people, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but how many people get their real estate license and within 2 years they're out of the business because they thought, oh, I can make $15,000 on one transaction. This is going to be cake, right? Well, it doesn't work like that. You have to, just like you said, Adam, be consistent. It doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen over a month or over a year. Sometimes it takes 5 years to really gain traction and grow that referral network business, right? Or figure out exactly who your sphere is, right? So just to add on to what you've said, right? Consistency, constancy, right? I would also say creativity, right? To stick with the C theme, right? Like creativity. People are hung up on mortgage rates or price of homes or whatever, right? Affordability. Be creative. Be the problem solver for your clients. Get creative. There's so many deals last year, the last 2 years, that it would have just fallen apart. The wheels would have came off, but we got creative. We figured out ways to make it work, think outside the box, and provide value to your clients and provide value even to the other side of the table, right? Get creative, work together amicably with agents on the other side of the table, right? I don't know how many conversations I've been involved in where it's like, my client won't do that. We won't go for that. And it's like, hold on. We're all trying to accomplish.
We all have the same goal.
It's not we versus you. It's not your client's not in the room with you. So go back to your client, get creative. Let's figure this out so we could make everybody happy at the end of the day, right?
Everybody wants to get to the table. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Just the creativity, get things done for your clients. It's just this year, I think the last 2 years, but this year I think is going to finalize what separates the performers from the underperformers, and people are going to get out of the business, or they're just going to continue to reach more market share of the business that's out there. And that's, I think, going to be directly related to the creativity that people can come up with to serve their clients and problem solve.
So just to circle back, I'm sure the stats are out of date, and what went on with NAR this past summer is certainly going to skew some numbers, but 80% in the first 2 years fail. 85% in the first 5 years. Okay. So that's certainly a very, very big deal. There's no question about that. And yeah, I think it's important for everybody to understand. I'll give you guys one more anecdote, and we use this one all the time because we had a coaching client. He was new to real estate, says he wants to go door knocking. I will never judge you for how you want to do your lead gen. I will only judge you if you don't do it. I'm going to do 4 hours every Saturday, he says. That's aggressive. Cool. Rock and roll. After a month, he says, well, that didn't work. Yeah, so you did 4 Saturdays, 4 hours, 16 hours. That's like one workday in the life of a new agent. Okay. Tell me it sucked. Tell me you hated doing it, but don't tell me it didn't work. If you did 4 hours every Saturday, I don't care who you are, where you live. If you're a real estate agent, you want to go door knocking and you want to do 4 hours every Saturday for a year, that shit will work. You will see results out of that. Be consistent. But yeah, I think that that's a big part of the problem. But if you approach real estate as a real estate agent, guys, if you approach it as a career and not a job, as a marathon and not a sprint, that instant gratification really doesn't exist, and that you've got to understand that the work you're doing today, the foundation you're laying today, is going to pay dividends in maybe in some cases a few months, and in some cases a few years, and in some a decade or two. But the work you're doing now, if you're constant and consistent with it, will pay dividends in years to come. But again, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And yeah, Nick, you're right. We live in this world of instant gratification, and a lot of people aren't going to get it in real estate.
Focus on and find fulfillment in the process, not the outcome, right?
Ooh, that's good
that,
too.
that I think has been a shift for me just recently. One thing too, I don't think I've ever told this story before, like ever to anybody. But my grandpa was in World War II, landed on D-Day in Normandy. And after he did 34 years, I think it was, in the military as a lieutenant colonel, when he got out, he got his real estate license in Colorado. And so I'm actually second generation real estate agent, which is kind of cool. And I don't think I've ever spoke to that before.
No.
But amazing man. And, the things that generation went through, right? People say in the real estate industry or mortgage industry, man, it's just so hard right now. It's so hard. It's like, no, what's hard is seeing your buddy get killed on the beach of Normandy, right? Like that's hard. This business is easy. It should be fulfilling, right? But you think about, switching gears to just focusing on his real estate career. I think about what my grandpa had to do in that realm. It's like you had to go to your office, drive to your office, pick up an MLS book with one photo of a picture, maybe a photo, or just a description of a property. Then you had to go drive over to meet your clients, show them, hey, here's a couple houses on this list I think we should go look at. Then you had to go drive to the other listing office, get a key to go into that house, go see the house, end up finding out that your clients hated it in the first 5 seconds that you were there, and do this repeatedly, right? And then they're like, oh, we do like this house. We want to write a contract on this house. You had to go get your hand booklet to write a real estate contract.
And press hard because it was carbon copy.
Right. Fill that out. Then go back, drive to your client's house. No cell phone conversation. Go drive back over to their house or have them drive to your office, complete that contract, then go hand deliver it and present it to the
other agent. Yep.
Yeah. And right. This goes on and on and on. We could just play this whole scenario out over like a half hour, but just to do one deal about how much effort that took from an agent. This is the easiest time ever to be in real estate because of the convenience
of technology. Yep.
Yeah, I'm talking about convenience of technology. I couldn't get my video to work with you to start this, so I have no room to talk. But right, when people come to me and say, oh, it's just so hard right now to get into this market. No, rewind 35, 40 years. That's a hard market to be in, right? We're so conditioned between the instant gratification and ease of things that when we actually have to put forth effort and work and get creative to solve problems, it seems overwhelming. So I just wanted to share that one quick story because I think it puts a different perspective on what's hard right now in this industry, right?
I think that's true. And it's not a hard industry to begin with. For those of you that are struggling in real estate and mortgages right now, I dare you to go fight fires. Just throwing that out there. Right. All right. Nick, I know we're way over time. Thank you so much. I'm sorry about the technical issues getting us started. Let's get you back for another episode. I think we have a ton to talk about.
For sure.
We didn't even talk about what went on last summer and all kinds of other oddities in the real estate game. So let's do that. For the rest of you watching, listening, live or in syndication, you can get live episodes every Monday on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. That happens at 9:30 Pacific, 12:30 Eastern on Mondays, with a few exceptions, but you can catch us 40 or 45 times a year for sure. And then I'm here 48 hours later on Apple, Spotify, and Amazon podcasts. And for all the things we talked about today, if you want copies of the books I've written on this stuff, or you want to get a free hour of coaching with us, or you want to just see what we're up to, we've obviously got a couple of annual sales conferences. That data is usually on our website. Go check out justthetipscoaching.com. All that stuff is up there. Nick, I know carving out this kind of time on a Monday morning is no small task. Thank you for doing it. Absolutely a fantastic episode for us. We'll get you back for another. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to run our extra. I would love just a couple more minutes of your time. Certainly since we got a late start as well. And for the rest of you, again, watching or listening live or in syndication to the How I Met Your Mortgage podcast brought to you by Just the Tips Coaching. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.